Styx. So here's Styx on the Capitol being broken into by a bunch of Trump supporters.
All right, everyone, a little bit of an odd take here, actually. I have to do the Capitol video over again because I was not initially aware that several people had actually died in the violence. I believe they were all protesters specifically, so I figured it's best to be accurate about it. One of the finer details of the big news of yesterday, and people are talking about the 25th Amendment, coups and stupid shit. Twitter right now is pretending that Trump caused violence, even though literally one of the tweets that they removed from him was a video calling for calm.
Oh my god, that was the entire point of the video, was that it was doublespeak. He was saying, you need to be calm, but also they stole this election, and it's terrible, and they took that away from you. You're very good, by the way. That was the whole problem. And acting otherwise. This is such a fashy thing to do. The doublespeak and acting like they and you don't know what's actually being said. It's ridiculous. Everyone knows what is being said, but apparently fascists, I don't know if they think everyone else is stupid, or they think if they play stupid, they'll get away with shit. It's so strange.
Very interesting take from Twitter there, and it should be illegal. That being said, first and foremost, I am abused by YouTube. You should join me on another video hosting site. I have a feeling that there's going to be a lot of purging of YouTubers in the next few months as the result of the Capitol incident that I'm talking about now. So there will be links in a pinned comment to other sites. By the way, I do exclusive videos on BitChute, one per day, so you're not getting the full clank if you're not joining me there. I'm also on Rumble, Odyssey, and Dailymotion, all fine sites. What just happened yesterday was that some thousands of Trump supporters were pissed off at the proceedings and proceeded to physically invade the U.S. Capitol building. Several people were shot. They tried to breach, I believe, the main room, and were held off by the guards, and there were multiple deaths there.
No, they got into the main chamber. Does Styx not even know what happened? Did he intentionally avoid it because of the cognitive dissonance that would have to be involved for him to, be like, this is okay, this is fine? They got into the main chamber.
But anyway, first and foremost, I oppose political violence. But secondly, I noticed that a lot of the people that are very, very angry at it and saying, oh my god, it's a coup, it riots, violence, oh no, political violence, and they will attempt to cause people like me to perpetually disavow things, as though we haven't been calling out political violence for a long time. I noticed that they're the same people that not only condoned, but in some cases literally encouraged violent riots in various U.S. cities earlier in the last year. And
I'll restate what I've said about this previously, and that's, first of all, most of the activities around protests for, George Floyd and various Black Lives Matter events, most of them were peaceful, and I prefer that route. I think that's the better way to go in terms of events or whatever. Yeah, I think that's for the best. But also, I think the intent kind of matters. If you are aggrieved and frustrated that the government doesn't care that you're being, murdered systematically by people in authority, and it's been decades and decades of protesting peacefully, and absolutely nothing has changed. I'm not condoning it, but I understand if you get angry enough to try and get attention by making a ruckus, let's say. Again, I'm not condoning it. I'm just saying I understand. However, when you're just mad that you lost an election, and then you decide to try and overthrow a democratic election because you're so mad about it, that's not okay. These are different things. Once again, conservatives are pretending context matters. Not at all, because it's always advantageous for them to do that. No, it's not the same thing to go out and protest that you are being killed by the police at an inordinate level versus, hey, let's go overthrow the United States government and undo the election because the guy we like lost. These are completely different things on totally different levels, and equivocating in any way just makes you look like a jackass. Oh, muted.
When George Floyd or Jacob Blake were killed, well, George Floyd technically wasn't killed, riots
He was killed.
Broke out all across the U.S., and what we were told by the MSM was, well, we need to listen to these people's grievances. No, we may not like their methods, but, they're just burning Wendy's. It's not really a big problem. Ignore the flames, ignore the violence. Political violence is okay, said the MSM. Sometimes, the system doesn't work. They have a grievance, so they're acting out. Why is it that we can't have a national conversation about the grievance of the Trump supporters?
Because their grievance is stupid. Because their grievance is stupid. Their grievance is, we don't like the results of democracy. That's not an okay grievance to have in the United States. It just isn't.
Trump supporters have gotten together, time and time again, with people constantly predicting massive amounts of violence every time more than two people with MAGA hats get together. It never really happens. And then...
What are you talking about? Just weeks ago at the previous DC Trump rally, a bunch of people got stabbed. What are you talking about?
You have one incident where a riot, which is what this is, breaks out, and the MSM pretends that we need to silence them quick. We need to shut them up. Remove Trump, ban him off Twitter, put him in jail, put all these people in jail. Quick, we need to do something about this. Why didn't you ever say that about Antifa and BLM?
Again, Antifa is not an organization. It's people who are anti-fascist. Black Lives Matter is a grassroots organization to put together events and stuff to get people to protest for their rights.
They've been burning their own cities down and killing people now for months and months. The damage in Kenosha alone, didn't they evaluate it in the hundreds of millions range? The violence in Portland, didn't they evaluate that as like 100, 200 million? Violence in Michigan, all over the place. You've had billions in damage.
Remember Kyle Rittenhouse, but don't worry, MAGA people never hurt anyone, except all the times they murder people or break into the Capitol building.
You had dozens of deaths attendant to far-left violence, and not only is it condoned, it's literally explicitly endorsed by members of Congress. Some of the same people in Congress that were hunkering down behind their benches, scared shitless of the MAGA crowd in there trying to break through, some of those same people explicitly endorse political violence. So the same pundits that are pretending that Trump is trying to stage a coup despite him pledging to transition, despite him openly calling for calm.
He didn't pledge to transition until today, which is like the day after the riot.
So some of those same people, they've spent a very long time now openly encouraging this kind of behavior, as long as it's people with black power shirts instead of MAGA hats. What do you expect people to do when you have taken a large chunk of U.S. society? They've been perpetually abused by shitty trade deals, by corrupt sellout sleazy empty suit politicians. They've been alienated by billionaires, and they're angry.
Then your solution should not be to overthrow an election for Donald Trump. You're not solving any of these problems by doing that. If you found a solution to these problems that didn't involve destroying democracy and installing some sort of like fascistic dictatorship with Donald Trump as the figurehead, great, we can talk about whatever solution you think would be appropriate. This solution is not appropriate, though, if it needs to be said.
And they're constantly told that they're wrong to be angry, that there's something perpetually and irredeemably wrong with them. They get called names by politicians. They get called names by corporate hacks. They're constantly abused and deranged. And you act...
If you want to stop being called, like, a-holes or fascists, then stop being a-holes and fascists. That'd be great.
Like they don't have a right to be angry. They act like doubling down on abusive names and censorship is suddenly going to make the situation better. No, it'll make it worse. Twitter bans the President of the United States from posting for 12 hours, despite the fact that what was removed was just him airing, number one, grievances against Pence because he disagrees with the election certification, and number two, literally...
Again, inciting the riot that was caused by him. Let's see, does Trump have his Twitter back yet? Has he been tweeting? This tweet is no longer available. Yeah, they removed some tweets. I don't know if he has it back yet or not, but he hasn't tweeted since yesterday. So, that's interesting.
Calling for calm, telling people to go home. This was considered a call to violence by Twitter.
Again, because he was. He said, this is the worst. You're all being cheated. This is terrible. The election is a fraud, and what's going on in the Capitol is a fraud. You should probably go home, though. But I love you, and you're great. And also, I've been cheated, and you've been cheated, and it's all terrible, and this is awful. But you should go home. But this is terrible. It's doublespeak at its finest.
This was considered a call to violence. This is considered by idiots like AOC to be impeachable. Trump did nothing. He told people to show up at the Capitol for a rally. That's what he did. He did not call for violence. He did not condone violence. He did the opposite of what the MSM's been doing since last May. Calling for violence. They have, by their...
Please, find me the clip of CNN telling people to go out and burn their local Target to the ground.
inability to disavow groups like BLM and Antifa, they have helped to create a toxic mess of a situation in which groups of sometimes thousands or tens of thousands of leftists rampage through the streets of various U.S. cities virtually uninhibited. They have created that...
Tell that to the bail funds. I don't think that was virtually uninhibited. Did you see all the police violence after that shit? That was crazy.
Situation that has caused dozens of deaths and billions of dollars in property damage. All of a sudden, these same people are morbidly terrified by the specter of political violence that they themselves have created. The inability of the establishment towards any form of meaningful introspection is the most dangerous thing we grapple with today.
I would argue the lack of introspection from people like Styx, Trump, and the right is a much greater threat, but okay.
And I would argue billionaire censorship. The establishment right now is getting its jollies off proposing all sorts of panacea sort of bullcrap for a problem that they themselves have created. You're looking at the symptom, which is this Capitol riot, the invasion of the Capitol building, but you're not looking at the underlying cause. It's just a symptom. Just like far leftist rioting in your cities is a symptom. It's a symptom of sick society on a state and sometimes citywide level. Corrupt politicians, corrupt DAs, corrupt attorney generals. That's what you've got. That's the problem. Pretending that this is Trump's fault is ludicrous. It's not Trump's fault. He didn't call for violence. Told people to show up for a political rally. At what point in the rally did he say, well, I want you to take up arms and smash through into the Capitol? No, he disavows that.
Again, thinking you literally need to say, go and do political violence for me for it to count. Brilliant.
He unequivocally disavows political violence. Just like I do. Just like most of you probably do. But the MSM doesn't. The far left doesn't. In fact, they're quite happy about it. Until the shoe's on the other foot and it's people with MAGA hats and Gadsden flags. Now all of a sudden, the biggest headlines all over the country. Riot. Coup attempt. Orange man bad.
Orange Man is bad. His supporters broke into the Capitol building yesterday.
Well, you weren't saying that about the Fentanyl Floyd riots or what happened in Kenosha.
Oof.
The only time you had a problem with what happened
Can we get Styx banned already? Jesus Christ, I'm sick of this.
in Kenosha was when a 17-year-old kid defended himself against a dude who drew a gun on him. That's when you complained. That was a big, horrible thing. He was a fanatic because he went there to put out fires and deliver medical aid to people. He's a horrible extremist, but the people who were literally right next to him...
Do I think the inauguration will be held in an undisclosed location? I honestly hope so at this point.
Starting a fire next to a gas station of all places, they're perfect. Fine people. Great citizens. We should listen to them. We should fucking let them fuck us in the ass. We should listen to their grievances because they have something meaningful to say. Now, these people have something meaningful to say, but they're not being listened to. When people don't get listened to, things can turn violent. That doesn't mean that it's good. I'd hate to know how much the taxpayers are going to be billed for that fucking door that they tried to break through. Probably hundreds of thousands of dollars because pork is a thing in D.C. The fucking toilets there are worth more than your house in some cases. You imagine the toilet Trump sits on. Trying to silence Trump or silence MAGA hat wearers, make it a bad word, make the Gadsden flag a hate symbol, and stupid shit like that will make the situation worse, especially when it's totally lopsided. What's happened is that
people don't unilaterally decide something is a hate symbol. However, if you continually take a flag like that to these events where hate and, like, breaking into the Capitol building are a thing, then it's going to be associated with that. Like, a swastika didn't used to mean evil. It was like a religious symbol for certain people, and then it was co-opted by the Nazis, and then it became associated with them, and then the Nazis did awful, awful things, and then all of a sudden the swastika becomes a no-no in the Western world because it becomes associated with that evil. If you don't want the things that you use, the symbols you use to represent yourself, to come to mean evil, You need to not do evil things while using those symbols to represent yourself.
Corporations have latched onto it. They make money off selling fucking BLM shirts made in China. And that's basically, it's a big grift. It's a big joke. It's a joke to these people. Tens of millions of Americans feel completely alienated right now. Don't you think that when all you do to them is insult them and tell them that they're idiots, don't you think that that makes them angry? And you put half these people out of work. You've destroyed the economy. The establishment has destroyed our economy. Everything's a joke to them. They don't listen to people. They don't care about the U.S. working class or the middle class. They only care about the super rich, and they pretend to care about the very poor. Everyone in between, 80% of the population, they say, fuck you. Fuck yourself.
I guess you should care about how billionaires and the wealthy have subverted our democracy. I guess you should probably care about that instead of, I was going to say a word I'm not allowed to say on Twitter or Twitch anymore, instead of going to bat and suckling on Donald Trump, another billionaire who doesn't give a shit about you. That'd be great.
You don't deserve anything. We're going to abuse you more. Oh, you have a problem with it? More taxes. Oh, you have a problem with it? You're a fanatic. Oh, you have a problem with it? We're going to get billionaires to silence you. We're going to get you kicked out. We're going to make you a pariah. Don't you think that when you create a substrata of society of a bunch of pariahs and you constantly tell them, hey, you're evil and fanatic, don't you think eventually they're going to start acting like it? Right. I don't blame these people at all. Can you blame them for their anger after the...
Yes, if they direct it the way they have directed it. Yes, I can blame them.
Way they've been treated for the last 4 years? And it didn't start then. It started back in the fucking 90s. It started back with NAFTA and shit like that. The people of the United States have had enough. And most of the people on the other side condemning this, oh, it's violence and stuff. No, most of these are just partisans. They just don't like it because Trump's a Republican. Really?
No. I wouldn't like much if anyone broke into the Capitol building in an angry mob if it wasn't for, like, a very righteous reason. Their reason wasn't righteous. They didn't have the moral high ground. They were just a bunch of butthurt MAGA idiots who were mad that Trump lost the election, incited in part by people like Tim Pool, people like Styx, who went around for the last 2 months lying to them about supposed election fraud, which, again, didn't happen. So no, I don't feel bad for them.
And they believe MSM propaganda. They actually believe he's trying to stage a coup. It's just like they actually believe that he praised tiki torch waving Nazis marching in Charlottesville. They actually believe these things.
Yeah? Because he said they were... said there were fine people on both sides.
They live in a world of complete delusion because they've been lied to. I can't even blame them. If you're lied to constantly, if a wall of propaganda is...
Ooh, did a police officer die? U.S. Capitol police officers died following pro-Trump riot. Well, there you go. There goes all their claims that they've never killed anyone.
Are you proud of what happened here today?
U.S. Capitol police officers died from events stemming from Wednesday's riot at the Capitol, 3 sources confirmed to CNN, in which a mob of President Donald Trump supporters stormed the building to stop the counting of electoral votes that affirmed President-elect Joe Biden's win. The police officer is now the 5th person to die as a result of the day's violence. 1 woman was shot and killed by Capitol Police as the crowd breached the building, and 3 others suffered medical emergencies that proved fatal.
It's non-stop in front of you, and half of these people, they get their news from the internet. There's literally a screen in front of them half the day. They carry their phone around when they're being indoctrinated constantly. How can you blame them for being wrong? When they're being told shit that's not true, when newspeak...
Someone asks medical emergencies. What I've heard the rumors are for the 3 other deaths are someone had a heart attack when a flashbang or something went off and it startled them and they had like a heart attack. They were like an old person. Another person, you saw probably some pictures of some people climbing some of the Capitol building features. One person apparently fell off and died. And the third one, which I think is the most sus because it's just too like perfect in terms of how silly it is. Someone like tased themselves and like died or something. I don't know if I believe that one. But they died of death, yes.
Is being filtering into their mind practically 24/7. Then they start dreaming in newspeak. They start dreaming in red and yellow, the colors of China. That's what's happening to the U.S. public.
And McDonald's.
I don't blame these.
Ba 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 ba. I'm loving it, because I can't, or they'll send me to a gulag.
People for being angry. I mean, I'm not going to encourage political violence, but I can sort of understand where they're coming from. And I think that the Capitol Police opening fire on a group of protesters, none of which had weapons, I've been told by the MSM that it's a fiery but mostly peaceful protest. Mostly peaceful. Yeah, only 4 people were killed. Only 4. It's not dozens of people. It's mostly peaceful, right? Most of the people there didn't break down a door. Most of them didn't shatter a window. Most of them didn't hurl death threats at a congressman. Mostly peaceful. We should listen to them. Let's have a national conversation about what they want, about what they believe in. Because you've told them that they're not supposed to speak. You've told them their vote doesn't matter, and you've called them all sorts of names for the last...
No one says they can't speak. I think people get told to shut up when they're stupid, or shut up when they have hateful opinions. Then you need to not have those hateful opinions.
Last half decade. No shit, they're angry. No, I can't understand why. I can't understand. Now, their answer to this is, oh, well, we should expel Josh Hawley and Ted Cruz from the Senate. Yeah, that'll make the problem go away. It totally won't start looking like a far-left coup. It totally won't look like the establishment strikes back. It won't legitimize every claim made about fucking Beijing Biden being an asterisk president in order to start purging the Senate. Do you realize how tyrannical you sound? You're the authoritarians.
These senators were encouraging the kind of political violence by trying to throw shade on the legitimacy of our democracy. Trying to remove them as fascist, actually. Really? That's your go-to? Great.
Trump fans aren't. They feel bereaved because they feel their liberties being taken away. The other side fights in
My liberty is being taken away by losing an election.
In favor of corporate money and China. Talk about alienating the population. Half the population doesn't even consider the election results to be properly certified, dude. Don't you think?
Okay, and they're wrong. Just because you have an opinion on something, you don't get to have an opinion on a fact. The fact is they are wrong. I don't need to entertain the opinion that is wrong. I'm sorry that people like you have helped mislead them into believing that their opinion is correct, but it's not. They've been affected by propaganda put out by chuds like you, put out by the president, who want to lie to them and say that the election is illegitimate. But as it turns out, the people who actually gatekeep this stuff do fact check, so for the most part, it didn't do anything. So all you've done is rile up a bunch of desperate people on the right who now don't know what to do with that anger because you've incited a bunch of just conspiracy bullshit in them. It's terrible. This is on you, Styx. You and all you chuds.
Think it's a powder keg situation to antagonize people further? If people are willing to break into the U.S. Capitol of all places, they're certainly willing to do more on a local level, by the way. Maybe they should start taking that seriously. Instead of constantly heaping abuse on these people, listen to them for once in your God-forsaken lives. But of course, I'm talking to a brick wall. And I'm also, because I'm algorithmically censored, it's not like anyone who needs to hear this message is likely to hear it. Because big corporations...
I'm algorithmically censored. My videos only get 100,000 views. I wish I'd get algorithmically censored that hard.
And the establishment have screwed everything up. They've taken the United States and they've made us a laughingstock while projecting their weakness, their pathetic corruption off on Donald Trump, the whipping boy of the entire goddamn generation. That's about all. So...
Donald Trump is the whipping boy of an entire generation. YouTube, can you ban Styx yet? Please. Pretty please. He's trash. Oh no, he's back in the bathrobe! At least he's wearing like a shirt this time. Great. Ugh. Stop with the bathrobe, Styx. Okay, that's Styx. That's enough Styx. Let me get to these bit messages and